gracious welcome. I love that. So like Josh said, my name is Ben Kittner, and I have the privilege of finishing off the series that we've been in because Matt and Lee are on vacation. No, they did not take me. I am also upset about that, as many of you probably are as well. So Matt, as you're watching this over, next year, bring me too, okay? Please and thank you. But like I said, we're going to be closing out our series called Art of Neighboring. We've been going through this so far. It's been a really cool initiative that our church has been going through to kind of be like a shot in the arm for us to go and experience real and authentic relationship with our physical neighbors. And I want to kind of do a little bit of an interaction with you guys today. The first week, Pastor Matt handed out a block map, essentially to symbolize that we are here in the middle of it and that we want to know the people that are our 8 closest neighbors. And I want to see some hands raised to see how we're doing here. So raise your hand if, when filling out that block map, you have filled out 3 neighbors. Raise your hand. 3 neighbors or more. We'll go and more. All right, what about 5 neighbors? She knows 5. What about all 8 neighbors? Man, you guys are good. I still see some hands up. I am very, very, very impressed. Very impressed with you guys. Now, I want to ask this too, because this is a little bit different, because some of us, maybe we already knew the names of some of our neighbors around us. How many of you guys have added a new name that you did not previously know before the message series? Raise your hand if you've gotten one new name that you went out at the beginning, middle, end of this message series, and you found someone that you did not know that's a neighbor, and you invited yourself into their lives, and you said, hey, my name's Ben. It's great to meet you. You got to know them. Raise your hand if you know somebody now that you did not know before. There we go. I see some new hands up. I like that. Way to go. Way to take some of this initiative. So that was week 1. Week 1, we were talking about taking the great commandment literally, going and loving on our neighbors. And if you guys were here last week, I know I was on vacation, but I did watch the live stream, guys. Don't worry about that. If you guys were here with us last week, we were talking about evaluating the pace of our life. Time and the energy that we put forth in different things in our life, and asking ourselves this question of whether or not our life allows us to be available to the people around us, or if it leaves us absent. It leaves us too busy to interact with the people around us. Matt walked through the value of creating margin in our life to be interruptible, the value of being interruptible to those around us. And he talked about a lot of other things. And guys, I'm so glad. I'm also kind of like terrified, because those are 2 amazing messages that I now get to follow up and end with. But I'm hoping to add to the greatness today. But before I jump into what our message is, I want to know some of your guys' fears, because what better way to start a message than to go through some random phobias of people in the crowd. So they're going to come up on screen. I want you to raise your hand if this is a fear that you have. All right. The first one being a fear of snakes. Indiana Jones. I see someone like chanting back there, like, that's me. I'm not sure it's about Indiana Jones or the snakes. All right, snakes. The next one is spiders. Now, maybe not such a good looking spider as Tom Holland, but spiders, they're kind of gross. My mind went to like the Harry Potter movie, like, yep. I'm not even gonna go any further, that's disgusting. The next one, clowns. How many of you guys, I put a nice clown up because I don't like the not nice clowns, they're kind of freaky. All right, what about heights? Anybody afraid of heights? Josh, we going on roller coasters like this year? Is that what we're doing? He is going on roller coasters. All right, so we got a fear breaker over here. And this last one, public speaking. Yeah, guys, that's me too. All right, public speaking is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. For me personally, one of my biggest fears is actually ants, which might sound really dumb, like, why are you afraid of ants? But it comes from, it is logical, guys, I promise you. It comes from a Juicy Fruit commercial when I was like 8 years old, where they had this big ol' ant. You can toss that picture up there. This big ant drag a guy into like his giant ant home and like, I assume eat him. And so I was scarred all because he didn't give him some Juicy Fruit, right? And so I was like scarred as a child of ants, like surely there are ants this big in the world, and I'm terrified now. And so that just like stemmed into a whole slew of problems in my life. Not really. But yeah, I mean, so that's my fear. And I'm very intrigued as we go from here, because for me personally, ants might be a really big fear, but they are not a fear pertaining to neighboring. They're not really a big fear of mine when it comes to meeting and understanding and knowing people, because I'm not worried that they have like a giant ant pent up in their garage. Like, if we're being really honest, I'm not afraid to go talk to the neighbor across the street and fear that they might have a pet ant. Now, if they do, move. Like, that's the easy thing to do. I'm not afraid of that. And if I'm honest, I don't think you guys are probably afraid of that either. Like, you're probably not afraid that they've got like a ton of spiders lingering in their home, or that their family is composed of clowns just waiting to like show you their new act. Like, that's probably not why we are afraid. And so I'm left wondering, why do we fear coming and knowing our neighbors? Why? Why do we fear this? Why are we anxious when it comes to Matt's first message, second message, this third message? When we're asking you to go and meet your neighbors, why in you is there like a fear being stirred up? And so this is going to be where we are today for our third message, titled Fear Factor, Overcoming Timidity for Kingdom Work. And guys, I am really, really excited. And so what is it that we fear when it comes to our neighbors? Let's be honest. I want you guys to contemplate that here during this first part of the message. What do we fear when it comes to being in a relationship with our neighbors? Do we see the outside of their house and how it's dilapidated, and you only could wonder, right, what type of person would live there, right? We make these preconceived notions. Or maybe you wonder if they're safe, or maybe they're dangerous, right? If anybody in here has a TV or the ability to see the news today, you're probably a little bit pre-fear filled because of that. Because of 24-hour news, we have the ability to receive notifications and understanding of what's going on in the world around us. And guys, if I'm being honest, because this world is broken, sometimes that is less than ideal information. And it creates fear in us. We become afraid of the people around us because we see on the news that the people around us are crazy. And they are broken. And they are. It's true. And I would love to be up here and say, but the news, they're full of lies, and the world is beautiful and pretty, sunshine and rainbows, but I can't do that. I don't like to lie. I don't want to lie to you guys today. You guys are my church body, my family. And so it is true. The world is broken and hurting and a little crazy at times. But in spite of that brokenness, God has still called us as the church, as a body of believers of Jesus, to be in relationship with those around us. And that's one of the biggest reasons why relationship is at our core here at the church. We want everybody to experience a relationship with Jesus first and foremost, all right? And so God is not unknowing of how broken this world is. He sees the destruction and chaos that we bring into it, and yet he still says, I want you, Ben, to go and meet your neighbors. I want you to invite them into your life. I want you to invite them into a life with me. Because ultimately, that is what we are here for. And guys, as I kind of look into going and meeting new people, and the fear kind of begins to nag at me, I just threw this verse in because I thought it was really good for today, and I wanted you guys to be encouraged as we're talking through this message. It's from David in Psalm 118. It's just, David kind of, he does this frequently in the Psalms where he'll kind of say like, I'm really terrified. My enemies or all these things that the world has to offer me right now is terrifying. And he ends it with these beautiful ways of encouraging himself and leaning back into the truth that God has for us. And this psalm specifically says that the Lord is on my side. I will not fear. What can man do to me? And guys, I just want that to kind of be our anthem during this message. That though there are a lot of things that the world might say, hey, like be afraid of these things, the Lord is with me. What can man do to me? And so as we go to address this, I am really, really excited to lean in with you guys. And so he will be with you as you begin to build your relationships. That is why we're here. We want to fill you guys up so that as you go out, you'll be filled with the Holy Spirit to go and have these relationships with him. So, big question, right? How do we love our neighbors in spite of our timidity and fear? And to answer this, we're going to be jumping into our main text today in Luke chapter 7. If you guys want to use a paperback Bible, there are Bibles in the seat back in front of you. Go ahead and snag those now. We're going to be in Luke chapter 7. We also have this really cool thing called sermon notes, interactive sermon notes on sermons.church, where you can get on that on any web browser. Most of us have smartphones, and so if you guys want to pull it out that way, I'll assume you're not taking pictures or Snapchatting or anything or tweeting all of this. But if you are, so be it. But yeah, so we're going to be leaning into the message. In Luke chapter 7, we're going to be beginning in verse 36. So again, I'll kind of let you guys turn there here for a minute. Luke is right after Mark and before John. If you guys are looking for it right now, thumbing through the pages, I'll give you guys just a second to get there. I want you guys to be reading it and be in tune with this. All right. Luke 7, 36 through 44, the passage reads, When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner." Jesus answered him, "Simon, I have something to tell you." And he said, "Tell me, teacher." He said, "Two people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more?" And Simon replied, "I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven." "You have judged correctly," Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, my favorite part, guys, "Do you see her?" And we're going to taper off on this, and it is a phenomenal passage. I would highly recommend that you guys finish reading that at another time. It is a beautiful story about how Jesus kind of picks her up out of her sin and sets her on a new path of forgiveness, and it's an absolutely beautiful ending to this story. For our passage today, we're going to be lingering here at the very beginning, and I'm excited because it's going to help us walk through and understand a little bit more how to overcome the fear that we have as it pertains to our neighbors. But before I jump into our points, just bow your heads with me as I pray for our time together. Hey, God, I am just so pumped and excited for what you have for us today. Lord, I think that you've kind of been stirring this message in my heart for a long time in my own personal life, but then, God, also I hope for the people in this room. Lord, may you just be moving and active. God, may you relentlessly pursue the people in this room who need this message today. Would you not let them walk out being unchanged, but Lord, that they would be very much so changed today. Holy Spirit, fill me to be courageous as I'm talking about these subjects today. Help me to stand up here with the courage that you have for me, that I could speak to these people, to my peers, and to the people whom I love. God, that I would bring you honor ultimately in this. So in your name that I pray, Jesus, amen. All righty, we're going to jump in. Point number 1 is loving, not fearing our neighbor means interacting with people who make Pharisees uncomfortable. All right, now some of you guys immediately are like, ooh, like that's good. Some of you guys might be like, what's a Pharisee? We read it in the passage. I still don't know what it is. Ben, please help. That's perfectly fine. It is okay if you don't understand what a Pharisee is. All of the leaders within the Old Testament have different names, and they're very confusing. And so let me just put it in this light for you, that a Pharisee was a religious leader within that town who would have been looked at as like all things good, right? That as you're looking at like the best of the best Christian, a Pharisee would have been the person that you're setting on a pedestal in that time and saying, I want to be just like them. Right? So kind of like maybe put it into your own mindset like someone who's just really, really good. That's what they are within this time frame. A Pharisee is somebody who is looked at as being the best of the best. And this guy named Simon, and he's not Simon Peter like the disciple. This guy named Simon, he's one of these Pharisees who was revered by the people in the town, and he was good and upright. But, I love this part, the text shows us that he has a bit of a judgmental character issue within himself as he's going and addressing the woman. It says in Luke 7:39, when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Personally, if I'm being really honest, my immediate reaction is like, well, he shouldn't do that. My second reaction is, wow, I do that a lot. Where I immediately, and he's thinking in his head to himself right now. Like, man, like Jesus must not be all that great. He must just be a prophet, right? Like he's kind of diminishing Jesus' role as God and saying, man, he like even if he were just a prophet, he would know what she's done, right? And he's judging her, and he's not allowing her to be known by Jesus and to know Jesus because of this. I find it a little bit hilarious, though, also, the fact that it says, like, he says this to himself, and then directly after that, Jesus kind of confronts his thought. This was not a spoken, like, out loud, like, oh my gosh, Jesus, like, surely you should know what she has done. Like, this is in his head, and Jesus confronts it. He brings it out loud and out into the open because he wants Simon to be changed. And I hope that you guys see this today, that Jesus wants you to be changed in your preconceived notions about your neighbors. He wants it to change today. He wants you to see them as he sees them. And it's really cool because Jesus enters into this like transactional opportunity with Simon. He kind of takes this preconceived judgmental like understanding of this woman, and he kind of asks her in the crux of the whole passage right here in verse 44. Jesus simply puts, do you see her? Simon is literally sitting here in his mind saying, get out of my house. Like, what are you doing here? Like, you're going to ruin this moment with me and Jesus, right? And Jesus simply asks, do you see her? Jesus walks Simon through this whole ordeal of this passage so far, and at the crux says, do you see her? He doesn't want Simon to teach her. He wants Simon to see her for who God sees her as. He wants Simon to take away what he had come into the room with, his judgment of her, from outward appearance, outward action, right? The sin that everybody in the town knew somehow. He said, set that aside and see her the way that I do. Because Jesus was able to see her style of worship at his feet, crying and weeping over it. And he says, do you see her? Because Jesus, in that moment, he sees his beautiful child. And he says, I created her. Beautiful. She is a masterpiece, and I want her. And you should too. And I thought it was an amazing, amazing piece in this because I would feel so uncomfortable. And yet Jesus is saying, see my masterpiece. I am present in your home, Simon, today, not so that I can be yours, but so that you can know me and share me with the people around you. You see, guys, we are image bearers. We are meant to take this light that Jesus has given us in our hearts as believers of Christ. And we are not to keep that to ourselves, right? If you guys have ever read some of the New Testament, right? We're not to hide that light, but we are to expose it and allow all people to see that. And Jesus is kind of asking Simon in this moment, like, see her. She needs me. She wants me. Why are you withholding me from her? I just think that is an amazing, amazing thing, right? Simon is so perplexed by his preconceived notion of this woman that he cannot overcome it. And he's almost afraid of it, right? Like, I don't want to associate myself with that person, right? The person with the dilapidated house because, they might, I don't know, right? Like, rub off on me or something. Like, it's not cooties, guys. Like, he's literally saying, I want you to enter into a relationship. I want you to, more importantly, introduce me to her. Introduce her to me. And so this was really working on myself a lot as I was working through this message. For those of you guys who don't know, Hannah and I are currently looking for a home to buy, which has been a really fun process within this market, but man, it is amazing. Josh's wife, Erin, is a spectacular realtor. I absolutely love her. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that at all, but she's wonderful. And so this process has been going really good. We've really, really enjoyed it. And at the very beginning of this, at the first house that we saw, I was like, you know what? Like, wisdom moment, right, in this. Like, I want to get there early when we go to see a house so I can kind of walk around the neighborhood. Like, I don't want to just see the house. I want to see what's around it, right? And your immediate thought is probably like, oh, that's really smart, Ben. I thought so too. But see? Yeah, I thought it was. And so I'm walking around the neighborhoods around these houses, the first couple of them, and I'm walking around and I am in and of myself judging every home and person that I see. I'm tattling on myself in this. I was walking around and I was like, well, that house doesn't look very nice. Oh, their porch swing is crooked. Like, oh, that house, the roof is bowed. They probably don't care about their home that much. How are they going to be as neighbors? And I was walking around and I was creating these preconceived notions about every single person to try and somehow help me understand what house we should buy. And as I was walking through this message, right, we saw like two of these houses. I began working on this message and it hit me in the heart. And God really, really challenged me in this. And he's like, why are you asking those questions? Why are you not walking around these neighborhoods and praying and asking, God, help me to see the people that you want me to see? Is this the place that you would like me to live? Regardless of what the people are like, look like, what their homes look like, how loud they are, is this where you would like me to be as an image bearer, as a light bearer for you, Jesus? Would you like me to be here in this place to impact the people around me? And guys, that really changed the way that I went about this. I still walk around them. I still use discernment and wisdom and understanding, but in that I am praying, God, help me to see the people the way that you want me to see them, right? As we're buying this house, keep us protected, right? I'm not saying throw caution out the window. Keep us protected, but Lord, help me to see the people that you want me to see and in a way that you would have me see them. And it was huge. It really opened up my eyes, guys. And remember, Simon was supposed to be the best of the best Christian in town, and yet even the best Christian in this moment had a heart that was ready to judge and lash out instead of a heart to invite her into the care of his home and introduce her to Jesus. And guys, that was me. Tattle time again. That was me. I was more concerned with judging the people around me than I was with being excited to enter into a location to invite those same people into my home and introduce them to Jesus. It's kind of the whole point of this series, guys. Are we too afraid of the people around us because of news, because of whatever, that we would be reluctant to open our home up and introduce them to Jesus, because that's the ultimate goal. I would love for you guys to have more friends in life, but the ultimate goal is that more people would know Jesus because of this ministry, because of what you guys are doing. And so it leads me to wonder this question that'll be on the screen. It's a fill in the blank. Are we willing to lean towards hard to love people? Hard to love people. And that might manifest itself in a lot of different types of people in your life. I was just thinking of a few of them. The guy that mows his lawn in his underwear, right? Like, yeah, that got you a little bit, didn't it? Yeah. The guy who mows his lawn in his underwear, you're like, I don't want to go like knock on his door. Like if he wears underwear outside, what's he wearing inside? Like I don't want to know this guy, right? That's a hard to love person. That's a hard to love person at times, right? And so, or maybe it's the one where it's the kids that like destroy the neighborhood, right? Like they're riding their like little tricycles everywhere, and like they bump into mailboxes, and like my one neighbor lady, they ran over her petunias. I don't even know what flower that is. But those kids in the neighborhood that like destroy it, right? Maybe you're a little reluctant to get to know them because they seem a little like wild, and you're like, I don't like that. Or what about the one that has a very clear addiction? The person who might be hard to love because you see that they have a challenge and a struggle in their life, and you're pretty reluctant maybe to actually go and enter into a relationship because you're like, well, I mean, do I really want to know somebody like that? Simon was saying the same thing, and Jesus was saying, yes, you do, right? Are we willing to go and be neighbors to them too? The people in your life that might seem a little bit hard to love. God calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Yep, in that statement, right? Love our neighbors as ourselves. If I was going through something, if I was going through some difficulty, right? I would want somebody to come alongside me. And for me, right, I have this awesome church community. For your neighbor, God maybe put you there in that house to be the help that they need as well. I want to challenge you guys with that. Again, this doesn't come with a flippant disregard for safety, but with an aggressive pursuit of people. I don't know why, but I want you guys to write that down. So if you have a pen in your notes, go ahead and write that down. This does not come with a flippant disregard for safety, but the piece that I want in your notes, guys, an aggressive pursuit of people. Don't disregard safety and care for you and your family, right? But aggressively pursue the people that God has placed around you. So who is it? Who have you been avoiding that God has placed by you? Right, as I was reading our neighboring book, as I was preparing for this message, as I was looking at the series of these that were done by the churches around us, I was very challenged, like, man, God maybe put me in a place physically where I'm located to impact the people physically around me. Sometimes we go like, well, being a neighbor, right, is just the people at work and the people that I see at the park, like that I can pass by. But I truly believe that God is the author of all things good. And I don't think he would just put us in places that are just like, yep, all right, like there's a house and there's a house, and just like scattering us willy-nilly. I think that it was very intentional, and I think that God has placed us where we need to be for the people around us, sometimes for ourselves, and it is very impactful and purposeful. God maybe already knew that your neighbor would have a problem, and he's going to fix that problem by putting you right next to him. Are we willing to go and be the hands and feet of Jesus? So here's the tough question. Who are the people on your street that you have a silent judgment towards? I was kind of dancing around it the whole time, right? Kind of like, who are the people that are hard to love? Who are the people that you have a silent judgment towards? Maybe you and your wife, as you pass, kind of say that snide comment about like the porch or whatever. Or maybe it's just within your own heart of just like, yeah, man, like I don't really like him. His lawn, he doesn't even mow it. Like, man, is he even that, like, I don't want to go talk to that guy. What is the silent judgment in your heart? Because Jesus is telling Simon to take what he knows or thinks he knows about this woman instead of decide, I think that we can and we should too. We should take a pie to the neighbor that yells a lot, not so that we can go and confirm our suspicions of why he yells a lot, but to go and just extend love to him. It is that simple. Sometimes as churches, we like to make things really complex. It is not. Go and love others. It's very simple, guys. So how can we do this? Ultimately, we need to learn, and we need to see them as a child of God. Like I was saying about the woman, right? As a beautiful masterpiece, crafted carefully by my and your Creator. God wants us to see them the way that He sees them. And some of us are going to be like Jesus here in the room. We're going to go out and we're going to go and see people the way that Jesus sees people. We're going to intentionally take steps towards other people in our community today. There are going to be others of us in this room that are going to be a little bit more Simon-esque and maintain some of our silent judgments. And so a brief encouragement to the Jesus-like people within this room is that even in that, as you may receive some of that silent judgment onto you from the Simons within our church body, other church bodies, other Christians, kind of saying, why are you hanging out with those people? Because Jesus would. And so I want to speak a word of encouragement over you guys. Continue on. Keep pressing in. Keep loving on the hard-to-love people. Because, guys, it doesn't just get easy. Once you love a hard-to-love person one time, there will be another. This is something that we train and we get better at. And so I want to really encourage you, those of you who are going to go from this place and take necessary steps to change your perspective of people and learn and grow and shift and be challenged by this, keep going. Do not stop. Even when people in this church, leaders who are Christ followers, end up being like the Pharisees, where they are supposed to be all things good, yet don't care for people well, keep going in spite of that. You guys are doing a great job, and I'm really excited. You guys can do this. So that's our first point today. Loving, not fearing our neighbor means interacting with people who would make even Pharisees uncomfortable. And our second point, this is my absolute favorite point. I am really excited to share this point. Loving, not fearing our neighbor means letting the awkward be awesome. Yes, that is Napoleon Dynamite. Yes, that is awkward and awesome. And I am so pumped about this because the first time I ever heard this phrasing, letting awkward be awesome, was in my first ministry position at a church in Kokomo, where I got to work alongside probably one of the best youth pastors of all time. His name is Scott. Scott is an absolute amazing person, and I love Scott to death. We had the privilege of kind of helping this church plant another church, and my wife and I, we were beginning to work in the student ministries and kind of help get that off the ground. And I remember our very first night, right? It's student ministries night. We're getting ready. We're getting amped up. We got everything set up, and we kind of gather around as leaders. And Scott's getting ready to kind of give us our marching orders, right? He's like, here we go. This is what we're going to be doing for the next long while. And I'm sitting there like all giddy, because like, A, I'm studying this, but then B, I'm just like excited because there are a lot of games and I like to play games. And he literally says like, all right, here's what we're going to do. And I'm excited. I'm like, what's the strategy, right? Like, you've been doing this for like 10 plus years. Like, how do you do this? And he's like, we're going to let awkward be awesome. And I was like, that's not a plan. That's a fortune cookie. That's a fortune cookie, Scott. And I'm about to go hang out with middle school and high schoolers. I'm going to need more than that, please. Tell me there is more. Like, I desperately need this, right? But Scott had mastered something that I am working on still, which was simplify to master. He said, take all the crazy strategy and everything and work it down into the basis that, Ben, if we as leaders go and we love these students, we can get past all the awkwardness of middle school and high school, which there is a lot of, and love them, we will see people's lives changed. And it happened over and over again while we were there. We never got into these crazy big strategies and tactics. And, if we put the video games here and then do this, it was simple. Lean into the awkward, and God will do something awesome. And that was all it was. It was really, really simple. And guys, I think that this translates so beautifully into how we love our neighbors. Because if we can lean into the awkwardness of going and introducing ourselves and experiencing a relationship with them, then God can do something absolutely amazing. We could even have a good relationship with them. And I'm so excited. So let's look back at our text for just a moment to see this point in action. In Luke 36:38, it's the first part of our passage today. And it says this: when one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. Let's just put that in the context of a dinner party. Right? You're at a dinner party this week, right? It's Friday night, you're at dinner with some friends, and some stranger walks up to you, like someone who maybe like a pretty far removed friend, walks up to you and just starts like crying on your feet, wiping it with their hair. It'd be a little weird. Your immediate reaction is like, I'm not gonna come see these friends anymore. I'm gonna change my name, and I'm probably gonna move very, very far away in hopes that this doesn't ever happen again. Now, I don't actually hope that this would happen to you this week. If it does, please text me because that would be absolutely hilarious. But it is so unique because we see the kindness of Jesus within this, that he is able to look past a very awkward moment, right? If we're being really honest, the physical, what's happening in that moment is kind of weird. Yet Jesus looks past it entirely and loves on her. Man, I would love to learn how to be able to do that. That'd be incredible. And you see, in point one, we saw our need to change, but at this point, we need to break through this barrier of awkwardness to achieve these relationships in our lives with our neighbors so ultimately their lives will be changed. It's that simple. I'm not going to dance around this like crazy, guys. If we can push back past the awkwardness of like social anxiety and get past that and go and enter into a relationship with our neighbors, the goal is not that we have more friends. The goal is that they would know Jesus, and that is well worth pushing past. Man, I'm getting way ahead of myself. That's like later. I was going to like kind of flesh that out for you, but you just get it. You just get it, right? And for some of us, right, the awkwardness is maybe because we've been living in our house for 10, 15 years and we don't know the names of the people around us. And you're like, well, Ben, it's been 10, 15 years. Should I just wait till I move again 10, 15 years from now? Or we make this like lie to ourselves like, well, maybe they'll come to us first, right? Why do we have to be the ones that do all the work? All very logical things. And if we were not Christ followers, I'd be like, yeah, just stay at home. Like if they want a relationship with you, they can have one and they can come up to your door. But guys, as Christ followers, as bearers of Jesus, it is our goal to go out and introduce him to them. It is not their goal to come and find Jesus. The woman in this story should not have had to come and basically break into Simon's house to see Jesus. There should have been an open invitation by Simon. Hey, I've got Jesus. Come and see him. Come and meet him. And guys, we have to push past the awkwardness so that we can get that. So we can introduce Jesus because he is what we have that is so good. You guys are great. You are not the goal in this. Them getting to know you is not the purpose. The purpose is that they would know Jesus. Many of us think, right, that if we just last a little bit longer, then maybe they'll come to us. We've got to push past this. You can take the step out of your comfort zone to talk to the person across the street and transform that relationship from being a stranger into an acquaintance. So that ultimately, this now like acquaintance that is your neighbor will eventually turn into a relationship. And in that relationship, that's where life change can happen. When they can ask you hard questions, when they can talk about the addiction that they've been going through, or maybe the separation in their marriage, or maybe the kids that they have that are crazy and wild, and they just need some help, right? In that relationship, we can see change occur. Even if it means getting a little bit awkward, guys, it is so totally worth it. So to help this point stick, I made it into a fill in the blank. So guys, go ahead and fill this in. It is that God moves often in awkward situations. God moves often in awkward situations. Some high quality H2O. So after we had been at Kokomo for about 3 years at this church, working with Scott, because he's amazing. Love Scott. We've been working there for about 3 years. Hannah and I, we got this call to take a step away from that church, and then God kind of brought us here at Cornerstone. And it wasn't until probably 3-4 months that we were working here at this church that I got a text from one of our students from this other church. And he essentially was shooting me a text, and I was like, hey, man, like, how you doing? Like, just kind of catching up. And I'm going to be really honest. This was one of the students that was quite awkward. One of those that like I'd be like talking to some other students or maybe some other leaders. He'd just like come up. He'd say like a random statement that was just really weird and awkward. And he'd like go away just as fast as he came. And it was like, all right, cool. Like, and you just kind of keep having these conversations. And for 3 years, we were trying to lean into this kid. We were trying to talk to him. We were letting the awkward be awesome. We would come and have these really crazy conversations with this kid. And he'd just go away. And it's like, well, maybe we're having an impact on this guy's life. Maybe not. And 3 months after we had been working here, he texted Hannah and I, or me, and it was kind of talking about Hannah and I, and he was saying like, hey, Ben, like I just wanted to let you know that you guys have had such an impact in my life. Not a lot of people kind of like take time out of their day to come and know me. And so when you and Hannah would lean into to loving on me, like it was really, really valuable to me. And I actually got baptized a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to let you know that a lot of that was because of the way that you guys treated us. And I was blown away. Right? Like I'm kind of sitting here like maybe we're just like expelling energy upon energy for nothing. And yet it was energy upon energy for everything. And he later began to flatter me more by being like, and I actually, because of how much like you impacted me, I'm really interested in going into student ministries. Like I want to impact people the way that you impacted me. And I mean, as flattering as that is, guys, like that showed me something so valuable. that as we press into the awkward and awesome for 3 years, guys, it yielded such fruit that I could never imagine on my own. That the student would come and know and have a personal relationship with Jesus and pursue it to the nth degree. And guys, like that was the fruit of everything that I had done over there for 3 years. It was absolutely spectacular. It was breathtaking. And it was the most beautiful thing. And I want you guys so badly to have that in your lives. And it might take 3 years. It might be really, really awkward conversations. It might be 10 silent meals where you cooked for them, you invited them over, and conversation was really rocky, and it was really tough to overcome, just like that silent barrier. We don't have a lot in common. And then maybe like 3 years later that they come and they explore the church with you, and they come and have a personal relationship because they came to Easter with you. And guys, my mind is just spinning of all the ways that God could take this relationship with you and your neighbor and expand it into something absolutely beautiful. And if you can't tell, I am so passionate about this because this is why I do what I do. And this is why I hope that you guys are here, is to be filled up to go out. I don't want church, I don't want Jesus to reside within this building. That would be like the worst thing we could ever do. I want Jesus to be in you so as you go out of this building, more people can see him. I want that so badly, so badly. God was moving even though I couldn't see it, and he captured this kid's heart. And ultimately, he changed his life. And that's what I want for you guys. And so some of you guys, maybe you have some next steps that are needed to be taken. For those of you who were with us the last 2 weeks, you have received that block map, the refrigerator magnet of it, where you can begin to go and introduce yourself and gather the names of your neighbors and write them down on your fridge and on this magnet and kind of get those taken care of. That might be your next step, is to go and get that first name. Maybe you've been reluctant and you've been afraid, or you're like, I've got a lot of social anxiety. I don't want to push into this, Ben. Maybe now's the time. If you haven't leaned into that block map, if you're not done filling that block map out yet, I would really encourage you guys to go and do it. And if you didn't even grab one because you're like, I'm not doing this, we actually have some in the back that you can snag on your way out. Because I'm going to be honest, I think there are people sometimes in the church where we're like, hey, everybody gets one, and you're like, I'm good. Not because you're a bad person, but because, again, like that's not my thing. Like Ben talks to people a lot. He likes people. That's his thing. I don't. I'm not that person. We are all that people. And I would really encourage you guys to go and get that refrigerator magnet. And for some of us, right, that is that plugging them in. And I love this, kind of like if you want to divide your brains into these 3 categories, right? We have our strangers, who are probably our neighbors at the moment. And then transferring them into acquaintance, which is like, first name basis. Maybe you know what their dog's favorite color is. And then the third category, you guys don't know your dog's favorite colors? Come on, guys. But then the third category is taking them from acquaintance into a relationship. That is knowing like more about them personally. Maybe some struggles that they've had in their life. Maybe what they did on their vacation. Maybe it's knowing that they went on vacation instead of being like, I haven't seen them in a couple weeks. Are they dead? And then they come back a week later and you're like, they were on vacation. Like, it's taking them, going from strangers. Man, guys, I'm not even reading the notes anymore. This is so much fun. This is awesome. This is really good. Taking them from stranger to acquaintance to a relationship. Because in relationship, that's when we can then express our heart for Jesus more. When we just show up and we say like, hey, do you know Jesus? Like it tends to fall on deaf ears, but when it's somebody that you care about and that you know cares about you, it tends to be a little bit more effective. So Leah is amazing. I wasn't actually thinking about sharing any of these, but she encouraged me to share some of these, like some quick tips of how to go in and like knock on the door and breach the awkwardness, right? And again, my personality, I would just like show up and knock on the door. But a lot of us, we need something to, it's like this idea of like having like a desk in the way in a meeting. Like I like to be behind something. So maybe your first step is to be behind something. Grab some baked goodies, right? Bake a bunch of cookies for everybody in your neighborhood. And then you have this like talking piece with you. And you walk up to the door and you say, hey, my name's Ben. We were making cookies because we want to get to know everybody in our neighborhood. Here are the cookies. What's your name? And it takes the awkwardness of like, hey, I don't know your name still, like, what's your name? And it makes it a lot more like easily achievable, right? By having something present to talk through. Maybe it's asking them a question, right? Like maybe your yard is struggling, it's a little bit brown, even though it should be green, and their yard is just like this beautiful, luscious green color, and you're like, man, like that's so cool. Use that as a conversation piece. Walk up and go, hey, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but my yard is pretty dead. Your yard is very alive, and I would love to understand a little bit better about what you do so that I can also do that. And it begins to foster this relationship. They'll probably talk for a very long time, and your goal is not to tune out about that, but is to lean in and to go, oh man, could you come give me a hand with some of that? And then this time is compounding upon itself, right? Find something that they enjoy and talk about it. And the last one, I titled this one, The Own It. Walk up. I've lived here for 10 years, and I don't know your name. And our church is saying that I should probably know your name, and I want to get to know you more because I want to know my neighbors. I want to love on our neighbors a little bit better. If you need a cup of sugar, I want to be the person that you come to. So, what's your name? How many kids do you have? And begin it that way too. There's just an ownership that's totally okay to own here, guys. That like, hey, I should probably know this, and I don't. That's good too. And once that awkward and awesome step is out of the way, right? Like, take time to write their names down on the refrigerator magnet so that you don't have to go do it a second time, because trust me, that one is awkward. That one is way worse than the first one. Trust me. So make sure you guys take note of that. We also have this really cool thing that's going to be here on the screen. It's a QR code. This is to kind of help us, and it's going to also be on the handout. This is going to help us because the block map is to get us from stranger to acquaintance. The next one is to take us from acquaintance into a relationship. And the block party, when you scan this, it'll take you to an online platform that just has a ton of information for you to help you begin to plan a block map and help you a block party. Help you understand some different ways that you can do this and how you can jump in and love on your neighbors through this. But this is a great way to do this where you invite them to share a meal with you, where you do like a barbecue, or maybe just, hey, everybody bring a side. We're gonna piazzer, as we call it at my house. We're gonna hang out. Everybody bring a side, and we're just gonna hang out together. This block party is a way for you to do that with all of your neighbors. And if you've done your block map before, you get to be the hero, and you get to introduce everybody to everybody. Helps you flex your names a little bit more, and helps everybody else recognize they actually care about me. They actually know my name and my kid's name, and they're introducing me. Like, this is really cool. It would have been awkward for me to be here, but they're bridging that gap for me. The block party is a great way to do that. It's a great way to share a meal with the people around you and to get to know them a little bit better. Another really cool opportunity we have to kind of invite them into your life is we have Easter coming out this next Sunday. Invite them to Easter. You know, people come to church 2 times a year, Christmas Eve and Easter. And so invite them to Easter. If they don't have Easter plans, hey, my family and I were going to Easter. You're welcome to come over for brunch afterwards, right? Use the Easter cards that were on your guys' seats as you came in. Take them with you and invite your neighbors. Again, a focal point that doesn't just have to be our conversation. This can be what we converse about. That's totally okay, right? Invite your neighbors to Easter and allow them into this place. Again, not because we think that Cornerstone is really cool, we like numbers being boosted, but because we truly believe that when people can hear about Jesus, then lives can be changed. Jesus is the change, not me. You know, if they came this Sunday, we know that nothing's happening there. I'm just kidding. But like I'm not the point of Sunday. I'm not the point of Easter. Jesus is. And so if we can invite them into that, that's what we want, because Jesus is the point of this. Now, I want to invite the worship team up as we begin looking towards closing. And guys, I'm just so thrilled